How's it going, people? In this video, it's going to be a podcast update. It's been nearly 6 months since our last podcast, and all of the other podcasts were done via Zoom. The first time, Team Bubba all got together. We ended up in Larry Larger's house. We set up we only had a couple of microphones and a laptop. So we sat in his kitchen and we thought, let's do a podcast. It was it's a funny title, this, but we had a curry and then we had some beers, and we thought, let's just talk, keep the mic going, because we're just going to do talk on some specific topics. We thought, no, why not? It's just a load of guys that got together and become mates, and it's going to be 4 hours in total, so they're going to be split these up into maybe 3 episodes. So this first one is going to talk, going to introduce us all again and just go through some of the emotions that we've all had over the last 6 months, and of course covering some other topics as well that you are familiar with what's happened in that time, what's going on currently, and also some we've got our own comments on people that have sent us email. One particular lady that's shared her emotions with us, and anyway, I won't spoil it. Have a listen, hope you enjoy it, and please smash a like and of course comment. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye bye.
Hello and welcome to the Team Bubba podcast. Now, it's been a while since we've all been together, and for the first time ever, we are all sat in the same room, drinking beer and whiskey.
Get on.
Right, boys? So, in the house tonight, from Laz's gaff, is Billy, Stevie, and Baz. All right, boys?
Howdy.
Evening. Right.
So, the old CIA coughed up some money, got us together, and we all went out for a Ruby Murray tonight, which was really nice.
Come in there and do that check, didn't it, this month?
Yeah. We did sort of poke them, because we're sat here in my kitchen with 2 bloody microphones, and we're leaning across hugging one another. When, that'd be a good idea if you put your headphones on, lads.
I'm unprofessional.
Yeah, we did ask the CIA if they'd sort of bung us another couple of mics, but we ain't doing a good enough job on Kim yet, so we're working up to that.
Fisher Price.
Right, so what we got to chat about, boys? What do you reckon, Barry?
Oh, man. Can't just dump it on me.
I can. I've got to open another beer, son.
What was the last time we left our podcast? What we were talking about was during the old Rona, wasn't it? We were talking about I think the last podcast we were talking about the Canadian truckers when they were doing their protest. That's how bloody long ago. Yeah.
I think we predicted the Ukraine thing as well, didn't we, before?
Yeah.
Didn't we? I'm sure we were talking about the Ukraine thing before it actually kicked off.
We more than likely did, mate.
Yeah.
We're getting good at that.
So what's happened since then? A bloody lot.
Shitloads, yeah.
Well, the Ukraine thing.
Which is kind of non-existent now, because we've got something else that's crept up, haven't we?
There's been a death in the family.
What's that?
Don't know. I'm trying to think.
Ding dong, the witch is dead, the witch is dead, the witch is dead. Ding dong, the wicked witch is dead.
I think we know who you're talking about there, mate. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, with all the amount of crap on the TV, I think we'll give that one a wide berth, shall we?
Yep.
Just, there's no need to talk about that.
Not really.
I think we're going to get, was it 12 days of it anyway? Yeah. So
yeah, we don't want to inflict any more on the. We've got to get up to the mics, because we ain't got our own mics here.
No.
So yeah. So what we got to talk about then, boys?
I think since the last time we did a podcast, so much has happened in the world, and the people that we thought were the ones that were going to help us through all this didn't do anything. And that's the same for the people that are all fully arm-speared. They're kind of like,
all of a sudden all their veils dropped. We know who they are, but they want to pretend nothing's happened. And we see these people every day. We go to work with them, or we work, and you'll say, then people give us a hard time and said, why aren't you wearing a mask? You know, you're not allowed in our shop without one. All of a sudden, they're all kind of, yeah, come in. So much has happened. And that's just one subject, and that's to do with the old Rona. But so much more has happened. I mean, even just with us, on ourselves, how we've gone through that pandemic on our own. Of number one, taking so much shit off people, especially the ones that we worked with, our families and our neighbours. You know, the ones that used to invite you around for barbecues, and then they find all of a sudden they don't want you to come round. So much has happened there. But I don't know about you guys, but we can't forget about that, but they seem to think they can. So I think that's quite an important thing to talk about from my perspective anyway.
Hang on. Right. So where should we start then? Right from where we left off? Where were we at? When was it? Back in January time? February?
I can't remember. Yeah, it must have been 6 months ago or so.
It's been a really long time. Too long, really. Too long.
And I think the reason why it has been so long is because we've all had our own things to deal with in our personal lives. And it's been difficult. And I think a lot of our listeners that listen to this video now don't really understand that, you know, they just get a video now and then it comes out. But a lot of bloody work goes into what we do and what we've done in the past. And also we've got our own living. We're all working families. We've got our own kids and stuff. And I don't think a lot of people don't know that about us. So we don't, of course, want to give too much away about our identities.
We're CIA agents. Come on.
But, you know, we do get a good paycheck from Blackwater, is it called?
We're sat here in a flipping world-class studio. Joe Rogan would be blooming jealous of this setup.
He would be. Fantastic little microphones and stuff. Yeah. No, I think, personally, what's kept us going is us being, you know, Team Bubba. We're friends as well. And I think there's not many people out there can say that they've got friends that can talk about absolutely anything like, you know, we can. And being here today in Lazar's gaff is, you know, it's fucking brilliant. Excuse my French.
Yeah.
Totally agree. So I appreciate that. Respect to you, man, for allowing us to come to your place.
Yeah. Nice one, lads.
Yeah.
Very welcome. And we'll definitely do it again sometime.
Yeah, definitely make more of a thing of this, can't we? Definitely better face to face. 100%. But I think, just going back to what you're talking about there, Stevie, I think that there's an element of PTSD that people don't think people quite realise what they've been through. And I think this last period from when we spoke last to now for me is like kind of been about that. Kind of, I've left a lot of alternative media to one side a little bit, just to regroup. And I think we've all been going through a little bit of that as well. Just when you've been through something so traumatic and heavy in your life, it's difficult to see it when you're in it. But when it kind of ends, you're left in like a bit of a lull. You don't really know what's just happened, and you can still trying to work through everything for yourself. And like you say, you've got to live your own life as well. You know, you can't just shut off your personal life. We've got families and work to do and responsibilities. And for me, it's just been a case of regrouping, just getting all my energy back again and just kind of getting ready to fight the next fight, because that does appear to be the way it's going to be for us. It's not going to ease up, is it? Yeah. You know, it's like they always do. It's always end of that one, on to the next one. There's no let up. But you've got to give yourself that bit of time. It's important to just sometimes switch off from it all, because if you don't, you just become consumed by it, because it's just a non-stop rolling train, ain't it?
Yeah.
And plus, you don't know what's coming next. It's important to keep your finger on the pulse, I think. Obviously it is. But it's equally as important to keep yourself balanced. And I think with all the things that come day after day now, faster than ever, it's so easy to get caught up in that. And you can kind of lose sight of what is important in your own life as well. So I've been personally going through that little bit of a process for myself, where been doing me a little bit more, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's
good.
It's something that you need to do, because if you don't, like I say, it'll just steamroll all over you. So many things just seem to be happening on a daily basis now. And I've noticed it because I don't go fishing as much as what I used to. And when you do that, you only have to leave the alternative media for a couple of weeks, a few weeks, and you realise just how much things move on and how fast they do. You know, you lose track of what's going on, don't you?
Yeah, it's a lot to catch up on, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's about keeping that balancing act, you know, in your own life, rather than just obsessing over world events, because they're going to come anyway. You know, not that you shouldn't look. I'm not saying that to anyone. It's important. You've got to keep your finger on the pulse. But just for me, it's just been more of a case of backing off, getting me mojo back a little bit, looking back at what we've been through and processing it all out. Like I say, it is a form of PTSD for me. It is like a post-traumatic stress, isn't it, that we've all been through?
Yeah,
you know,
we've had time to kind of catch our breaths a little bit.
Yeah.
Especially with, there's been a sort of a calm period. You know, you've had all this shit where we all think we're going to have digital IDs. You've got this thing where they're going to take away your livelihood. And it's not just us, everybody that are in this movement. Then you realise it's not going down that route, or they've had a second, you know, a pause, and you think, fuck, I'm going to take a few, you know, time out, take a few deep breaths, and then you want some time out, like you said, and then you can come back stronger.
Yeah.
But then there's the next one that comes along, and you see it, and you think, friggin' hell, it didn't take long, did it, before they bring in the Ukraine shit. Mm-hmm. And then we're all there now going, telling everybody, it's not real. It's not real. They're all in the same boat. Remember, all these people, or like Russia and that, they was all on board with the old jib jabs. And now they're fighting. Now that the COVID's gone away, don't you see that as a playbook? Mm-hmm. Yeah. But they don't see it. And you're right. If you go into this 100% every day, and that some people do, maybe because they haven't got family or whatever, I'll take my hat off to them if they can do that. But, you know, we're human beings. We're not fucking robots, are we? You know?
I know. Me and Billy talked about it on his way down here today. There's a certain sort of life-work balance, and I think it's very similar to having a time-out balance and doing the research and looking at things from, because we're all really good at doing what we do and looking at what we look in the objective ways we look at everything. We don't get caught up. Something happens, we don't just run out waving his arms in the air screaming. We kind of guess that something's going to come out and something's not quite right. But then again, you've got to take that time out to sort of step back a little bit and just say, right, I can't do this every single day. I've got to go and work for 11 hours a day. I've got to sleep for 6 hours of those days. I want to spend some time with my family for those hours as well. And this is why it's taken us so long to get together, for me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a little bit frustrating because sometimes I think, oh, right, 3 of us are free. Oh, no, 1 of us isn't. Mm. Or something will happen where we're going to plan something and we'll all go radio silent because stuff's come up. But we don't think, yeah, that weren't right. We should have just said something.
I'll tell you what, lads, we couldn't organise a piss up in a brewery, could we? Let's be honest. The amount of times we got to do this and do that don't happen. We don't get paid enough by BlackRock, let's face it.
We're going on strike next week.
There was a while back someone leaving comments on the video saying about my grammar. And I thought, yeah, well, they kind of proves it. Hey, what would you hire someone that's not a shit at grammar? Can't spell right.
Someone checking it for you, wouldn't you?
Yeah, CIA, you're going to hire Team Bubba. Oh, a bunch of cowboys, aren't they?
Seriously, come on. Does anyone out there really believe that us, bunch of divvies, are flipping working for the CIA? Really? Come on. Bloody hell.
We're still waiting for our front doors to be kicked in from the FBI or whoever it is. Do you remember? If Kim's put she went to the FBI and said that she wanted all to be arrested a while back.
That don't make sense.
If we're CIA,
if we're working for the cabal, It don't make sense.
Oh, it was because she said that we were being protected by the Democrats. I mean, we're in the UK, not in America. With that, if you'd have said like the Labour Party, you're being protected by the Labour Party. Yeah,
Don't worry, UKIP have got our backs. Fucking hell.
Oh, this is ridiculous.
it's funny, but that's the kind of thing they go through. Though they're getting fed this to her. She's feeding this to them, and those people that are very much similar to the ones that watch the mainstream media are no different. They're just believing what they're taking in without any proof or not even thinking about it twice. Because you do. And most of these are really intelligent people that listen to her shows. You know? So...
But what is the definition of intelligence, though? What is it?
On paper, I'm talking about. Those people are supposed to be clever. You know,
Yeah.
They've got...
I mean,
really,
there's got to be two definitions of intelligence, isn't
yeah,
there?
definitely.
There's the mainstream version is, are you good at memory tests, like school, university, remembering?
Repeating.
Yeah. And then what I perhaps consider as intelligence is having a broad scope of knowledge about what life is really about.
Yeah.
You know? Can you do like things which would help you keep alive if this system failed? That's having intelligence.
Yeah. Something you're
Life
able,
skills.
Yeah, and something you're able to manage yourself and not want other people to do it for you as well.
And funny enough, that sort of intelligence they don't teach in schools.
No. Probably in some countries they might, but definitely not in the Western world.
No.
We would not survive if they switched off electricity tomorrow for indefinite. They made films about it in TV shows to say, if we was to switch off all electricity, you'll be screwed. You'll be killing each other over a tin of beans because there'd be nothing in the shops. Your water would stop coming through.
They can fucking try.
yeah. But the majority of people out there that still are blind to all this, it just hit them like that and they won't be able to cope. But with most people, and most people probably, watched bloody Thomas Williams or whatever, probably would, but they still won't be able to survive because they need to be in a group. Individually, I know for a fact, all of us could easily independently survive, like us guys here. But
we'd give it a good go.
Yeah,
For a certain period of time.
because we all know what we've been through, right? Last few years, and the crap we've took and been accused of by these crooks, just because we're exposing them, they call us the worst things ever on the planet. And we just kind of have to brush it off because being called them things is just really hurtful, especially when you've got kids yourself, But life goes on, and I know tomorrow if everything was taken away from me, I know I better survive. And if I don't, I don't. And if you believe in the afterlife or whatever, it doesn't really matter, does it? Because you think, I ain't coming back to this shithole if I die, That's the way I see it. I'll come back as a bird or something, or a dung beetle, probably get on better in this life.
Really? Couldn't grab us a couple of more, could you please, lad?
Yeah, no problem, lad.
Oh, you're running out of beer.
Yeah. Whoops.
Right. You won't get a job in a bar, would you?
This evening is obviously very, very, very relaxed. We've been out for a fantastic curry tonight. It was absolutely stunning.
Cheers,
and we're just
lad. Thank
kicking
you.
back and have a few beers in our makeshift recording studio
Joe Rogan.
In Lazar's kitchen.
in Lazar's kitchen.
Yeah. Put the bacon on, mate.
Yeah.
The bacon button sign.
Banging into speaker stands, microphone stands. I tell you one thing though, it is amazing to see everybody's face.
Yeah.
Because we've done this for so long. I mean, we were doing it on Zoom, and that were okay, but it's not the same, is it? It's not.
It's not paid.
It's not this. This is brilliant. This.
Yeah, especially, it's been a long time. I've seen like Lazar and Billy before, but of course being you first time, Lazar's, privilege, mate. Really is.
Well, mate.
Yeah.
But yes.
Second that.
Yeah, just brilliant.
Yeah. Been good.
And, we all live all over the country, and we won't give away where we live, but we still manage to get together. This first time, it's brilliant putting it together. And we just said, let's all go, Larry was the one that said, come to mine then, if you want. That's a good idea.
I just hope we can pull this sound round, because it is a bit of a Heath Robinson this setup, isn't it? I don't think Joe Rogan would be jealous, to be fair.
Especially if he's got my deep, heavy breathing again in the background.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're definitely going to have to do something with this sound, but, if it sounds crap, sorry, get in the comments and complain. We don't give a shit.
Yeah. Where's the complaints department, anyway? Bottom right shoe.
Yeah. We'll file it in the bin.
Oh God! So, what's been going on?
I'm kicking the mic stands now.
Oh God!
Right. So what have we got to do next? Shall we bash the coup followers?
I think they've got to have a little,
rip them a new arse.
I think we should plug them, shouldn't we? So, what do we know about Q? That's the main thing.
Well, first off, get a grip, you bloody idiots. Do you really think this Q is going to come and save you? Come on.
Q, what blends in with that was it the white hats? Yeah. Who else is it? Is in JFK Jr.? They say he's part of it. Trump.
4chan guy, what was his name?
Yeah. 107, which I'm sure you've all fed up on my videos putting them out, and I'm fed up of looking into him, to be honest. It's such a joke.
Has anybody pointed out how bad your grammar is or not yet?
Not yet.
No, excellent.
It's time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have all our 500 views, because if we were CIA, we'd be betting the millions, wouldn't they, by now? Yeah.
Now, seriously, though, how long's Q been around now? About, was it 2018, wasn't it?
No, it was before that.
17? End of 17.
It was before. A friend of mine said to me it was while Trump was going for the election.
16.
Really?
Yep. Yeah.
I'm not sure that's true.
The reason why is because it was put together with the 107 was also put together as a psyop to try and get him voted in, because the votes, and if you remember, he was like doing all these talks and there were people holding up queues, the letter queues in the audiences and stuff. So I think it's before 2016 or whenever he was started his election period. Then
that was they had that guy in the crowd and he was trying to say it was JFK Jr.
Yeah, that's it. So it's been going around.
Well, that's
a long time.
That's a minimum of 4 years. A minimum of 4 years, anyway.
Well, it might have been before that, but still, the Q has become massive in America now because of the Patriot movement. That if you say bad things about Patriot, and I guarantee they will hate us talking about them right now. Although they should be open-minded and kind of look at what we're talking about, because it doesn't make sense, anything they're saying. Has anything come true?
Yeah, we're back to square one again. Show us show us the evidence.
Yeah.
This guy or whoever he is has been making claims for at least 4 years. Stevie's saying over 6 years. Show us what's happened. Where's the evidence?
It's a fucking big long queue, and you're still going to be stood in it in 2030.
What should have really confirmed it was all a load of old bollocks was when Biden got in.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Huh?
How did that happen? Oh, it was it was a setup. Well, how can you get this? I don't know what he is, but whatever it is that's running America at the moment. I don't know if he's still alive. Some people say he's a clone. But whatever it is, it's a poor excuse to have someone running your country when, I mean, we had Boris Johnson, for Christ's sake. But I'm kind of thinking, which one would you rather have, you know? I mean, look around the world, all the world leaders we had at the time, and you think, oh my God, who cherry-picked these bastards? Do you know what I mean?
Well, the Q thing, obviously, the other side of it is it's a massive divide and conquer tool, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's split them right down the middle.
Yeah.
you know, which ain't good, is it? Let's be honest. And you've got Biden, who's just come out on a speech and basically threatened half of America with that speech.
Yeah.
He came out and he literally threatened, you know, that half of America. Basically,
it's like going back to the Confederate.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Basically.
Yeah. But he's
the Civil War.
Threatened them. So, you know, if they're playing the divide and conquer.
Because they're the ones with the guns, aren't they?
Yeah.
And that's what they want.
Yeah, they want to take all the guns. And majority of people in America that have got guns are sensible people. They have the right to have a gun. If we could have it here, I think I'd have one, to be honest. And it doesn't mean I'm never going to use it. But the thing is that you've got one, you know?
That's why
have we mentioned you can have a crossbow, though?
I think you can.
Whatever people say about the founding fathers, you know, a lot of people say, oh, they were Freemasons, they were this, they were that. You hear all the stories. What they were was fucking stupid.
No.
They were clever men. They were intelligent people. They set that up. You know, that was probably about the best way of setting your country to move forward, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The way they did it. I don't agree with democracy myself, personally, because I think it's just mob rule. But I think the way they set it all up with the guns was like a nice security blanket for the people. You know, so because they knew one day capitalism and everything, communism could come in. People are going to need guns to fight back. And that's why you've had the likes of your Piers Morgans and other people trying to get involved over the years, trying their best to force, you know, put your guns down. I mean, if we had guns here, I'm not trying to incite violence here, but it'd be a different story, wouldn't it? I don't think they'd be quite as cocky doing the things that they're doing right now. Yeah.
See, this is how I see this, what they're trying to do here. They are trying to herd all the people in America, like you said, the patriots, with guns. Sorry.
Microphone.
Check. Yeah. We'll try and sort out in the processing bit.
No.
Rustic.
So that'll just have to do. Yeah, how I see this is they're trying to herd all the people, the patriots, the ones with the guns, into a section of society, and they try to get them to believe that Father Christmas, Santa Claus, is coming to save them, and they're going around, they're telling all these nice stories about this fantasy figure is coming to save them, and this fantasy figure's doing this fantasy figure's doing that, when all the normal people are thinking, they're bloody crazy, these lot. Yeah. And they are literally got to be tagged as domestic terrorists, mentally ill domestic terrorists. And they're just walking into a trap where they will create laws where they can confiscate them guns, because that is what it's all about.
And then they're going to have the other 50% behind it.
Yeah, exactly. They are going to have what they consider, which they most certainly aren't, the ones who don't want the guns, as the normal, rational thinking people. They're the ones who will vote and back to oh yes, these people are mentally ill. We need to bring new laws in where you get more power to take the guns away from them.
Just like they tried with the Rona. Grass your neighbours up. Police yourselves. Yeah. They can't police it, can they? They need half a society or more to police it for them. Just like the Rona. Shop your neighbour. If you see, Stephen from down the road going to shop 4 times in one day, you need to make a phone call. If you've got family coming, got family coming round to see them, you need to make a phone call. And it's that ploy again. And when you look at it that way, you realise they've got no power. They ain't got power to enforce what they want. They're going to do
us to do it.
Like it always has in history, like in Nazi Germany, where, you can rattle off loads, the Bolsheviks, everything. They just had all their own people that brainwashed that they were just prepared to shop the next door neighbour, someone in their own family, in their own house. And that's what the Q movement does. It further divides it, even with more of a dividing line. You could have 4 people in a house two could be one side and two could be the other.
Yeah.
You know, and when you're talking about patriots and passionate Americans who are so deeply entrenched in their culture, more than we are, far more than we are. That's why they still got guns. It becomes a very dangerous situation when it's, you know, there's a fine divide. It's not like, I don't know, Massachusetts is all believe in Q, and then the next state don't. You're talking about people in the same houses. It's that deeply entrenched now into people's lives. Or it's not like areas, you know, like in England, there's always been a divide between north and south in England, or you've got even Manchester and Liverpool, or, you know, quite close. Now it's, especially in America, it's far more deeply entrenched than that. They've got it to a fine art, you know. And I think that's where it starts to become really serious, because that's how the civil wars happened in the past as well, isn't it?
But what they're going to use to trigger it, though, is going to take something pretty big to piss them off, like a false flag. Let's say some high official gets assassinated. Could be someone they really look up to. Trump, anyone like that. They could, if someone was to set that off, ticking time bomb right now, they'd be fighting like fuck. Because they'd be saying, oh, it was the Democrats that did it, or...
The thing is, it could even be Biden.
Yeah.
It could even be Biden, couldn't it? Because
if he was taken out as well, exactly.
that would be it. The guns would
either side, exactly.
And then that's when that would kick
They'll blame it on someone
Yeah.
that was from the Q movement or the Patriots or whatever you want to call it, did it. And it wasn't them that did it, because they're not trigger happy. A lot of them, like I said, they're really decent people. They're just following the movement because they think they want something different. They've been promised something different by, again, a fake person at the top. And they've been paid. It's like a psyop again. Yeah. And that's what they can do. They could easily trigger that off. Like you said, Biden, he might already be dead, I don't bloody know. But the fact is, they could do something like that, and then it kicks off and they go, ah.
Well, that speech he made was so divisive. It wasn't just 50-50 down the middle divisive. It was us, the Democrats, and then the far-right liberals, conservatives, but not the normal ones. So he's basically saying, all you who voted for Trump, who don't agree with what the others think about Q, you're all right, you lot. You're part of us.
Yeah.
And then a lot are thinking, oh, hang on, we don't want to be far right. We don't want to be talked about as if we're with these crazy fucks over here. So he split into kind of three with, it's a bit like the Rona lot, isn't it? You either absolutely for it, totally against it, or you're sat on the fence in the middle, and there's a big lot sat on the fence in the middle. And to try and get them onto one side...
Yeah, they want that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Demographic, don't be big time.
Absolutely.
Also, what did we see on January the 6th when they raided that was all part of this, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That raid on the White House.
That was pantomime.
It was pantomime, wasn't it? And at the time, it's like, well, why? What, you know, you always see it later on, don't you? Yeah. But it starts to become clearer then, doesn't it? Further down the line. That's all that was.
The
guy with the
use
horns on his head, painted up.
He was an actor, wasn't he?
They were just all there to do that.
Crisis actor. See? He was a proper actor, he would turn out to be.
Just plants, aren't they? Like these are all the protests.
Always said to Mrs. Bigham, I've always said, when something happens, don't just take it for what it's been shown as. Always wait. And I've always done that myself. Since 2011. 9/11, sorry. In 2001, whatever it were.
Yeah.
When we waited and then all this stuff started to come out, that was it for me. That was like the pivotal. I've always been a bit of one of those kind of people. But when that happened, that was the moment for me that made me realise that this world is run by shitbags who are willing to do absolutely anything to anybody to get what they want. And it still goes on now. There's been shooting incidents. There's been like the Paris, a couple of ones that were in Paris, the Charlie Hebdo. everything that followed within 2 or 3 days of those instances happening became clear. The shooting of the policeman on the floor, not the policeman, the shooting by the terrorist, in inverted commas, of the Charlie Hebdo employee on the floor, and there being no blood. He died, and there was footage, and everyone went, "Oh my God!" But yet they've all watched films where they know there's blood spattered everywhere, and your head will explode.
Yeah, exactly.
But it never did, and people just ignore that. And there's this ability by people to just ignore like basic scientific fact. It's the same with the vaccine thing. Ban, whatever they're going to do to us now because it's been mentioned. They just ignore the science, but claim they understand the science and they're following the science, but they're not. They're doing as they're told.
Yeah.
And that's the worst thing that everybody seems to be doing here.
Yeah.
And it's been happening in the past. But if you just, these false flags, people just need to just wait. Take your foot off the gas, turn off the telly.
Don't react.
And wait.
Yeah.
And things come out.
Mate, that's
every
right.
time.
They react on impulse, don't they?
Yeah.
Crikey. And I think it's either in, it's a deep programming. They think, like for instance, we was talking about the 9/11. I must admit, I thought it was terrorists going on. I didn't wake up to that till 2004, when someone shared with me something that was going on. It was a podcast. There was a guy on there that wrote a book, and it was called In Plain Sight. And this American guy was talking about why he thought 9/11 was a set-up job.
Inside.
And I went, inside job, and I went, oh, what's all this about? It's interesting. And he kept saying about, the way that the firemen in the building was running out, saying they could hear explosions in there. Why would there be explosions in the floors where there was no fires? Massive explosions down below. They said the building's going to blow, run. Everyone was running. There was loads of stuff. There was this guy was talking about, he covered it in his book. And then they said, someone said, follow this group of guys that have got a YouTube channel. I can't remember the bloody name of it. The young guys, they'd done some serious investigation into 9/11. And they're one of the ones that pulled up the BBC clip where they got the third building. And that building collapsed. And she said, we're just being told that another building's going to collapse. It's already collapsed, and it hadn't even collapsed yet. It was still in the background, wasn't it? Was it building 7?
Yeah.
Wasn't it? All that. And I just thought, loose change. That was the one, the video. Brilliant. And then it just unravelled from that. And that's what woke me up, because then it drove me on to, I know not many people like Alex Jones, but at the time, some of the things he was coming out with about the police state and all this, I was listening, I thought, wow. And I got depressed from it. I got so depressed. And I think a lot of people that do wake up now will be so hooked into it, they'll look into it and they'll think, that's it, the world's ended to them. Because I got depressed. I was listening to so much shit. Whatever Alex Jones said, it was bad. There was no good. And I was getting really down. And my missus said to me, why don't you start watching that shit? Turn it off. It's going to drive you mad, all that Illuminati stuff and all that. And I just said, yeah, and I did. I'd come away from it for a few months. And then you always end up, they say if you start your journey of being awakened or whatever, you always go back. You can't go back to the way you were before.
You can't learn it, can you?
No.
The other thing as well, that was 2001, wasn't it? You start, the longer you're in it and the longer you pay attention, you start to notice the patterns, don't you? And at the beginning of every decade, that first year, 18 months, always gives you the indication of how the next 10 years are going to go. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Yeah.
And they did that, and I think what they do when they have the Bilderberg meetings and stuff, and they're discussing how they're going to move the world forward, when they have these secret meetings, they're obviously planning ahead, aren't they? So whether they're 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ahead, I don't know, but they're always ahead of the game of us, the commoners. So they've already had it planned out. That, in the beginning of the 2000s, was the major indicator of how the rest of that 10 years was going to go. And then isn't it funny? You see it happening at the beginning of every decade, and we've just had it again, beginning of 2020. You know, they're giving you an indicator on this is how we're going to lead the world on for the next 10. And I'm sure they just do it in 10-year segments, you know.
Well, you had that World Economic Forum, the ones, was it Schwab or whatever, and he told us what he was going to do.
Yeah, he did.
You know, you're going to have nothing and you're going to be happy. You know?
Yeah.
He's already told you, hasn't he, what's coming up.
It was
Look
about
what's happening now.
It was about 10 years ago. In fact, it was the end of the 2000s, 2008, wasn't it, going into 2009 with the banking crash. That was kind of leading up to it. And then early in 2010, I think it was around 2010, that's when all the big corporations started to all go into this zero carbon thing. They were all backing it. And at the time, we were all like, well, why would they do that? They're crippling their own industry. But when you look at it now, as time's moved on, it's become really clear, isn't it? They're doing that because all of the the electric that we're going to be running on is all going to be powered by their fuel. So all he's done is just move the business model from how they used to do it to how it's going to be going forward. All those electric battery power cars it's all set up from fuel. So, but what they'll be able to do in the future is get rid of all the staff and all of the issues that come along with that, because they won't need them anymore. They'll still be moving on as much fossil fuel, but they're going to do it in a different way, and that's showing you how they want to push things moving forward. They're not interested in keeping people employed. They want people unemployed, owning nothing, but being happy.
Total reliance on the state.
There you go. Yeah.
It's a trap. There's no way out of that.
Yeah.
And people don't see that. And I get so frustrated with people that don't see the fact that the cashless society that's gradually working its way in. I'm spending all my money now. I don't use my card.
Yeah.
Unless I'm really boxed into a corner. In fact, I use my card to draw it out of the bank. Yeah. And that's probably the only reason that I use the card now.
Well, I boycott any of them now. Anyone that's going card only, I'll never ever do business with them again.
No.
Starbucks is one of them. Throughout that Rona, I went in a couple of times to go and get a coffee, because I do like the Starbucks coffee, and no, card only. I went, well, I'll never buy a coffee here again. And that's the only way people can fight back. You've got to stand by their own convictions, and you've got to mean it as well. It's all right saying it.
The people in the supermarkets don't get it. They don't get it. No. These people are employed by their employers funnily enough, to escort you to a till that you serve yourself with, that you don't get paid to do that. They used to pay people to do that. You're basically giving them more money because you're not getting paid. I'd want to be paid if I was scanning my own food.
Yeah, where's the incentive?
I want to be paid for. Hang on,
you get a bit of discount.
You used to pay her over there. Now you're not paying her to do that. You're paying her to tell people to come through you. So why can't I get money for being coming through the?
Well, you're not gaining anything from it, because you're not gaining time. It takes bloody longer, because I hate those machines.
Do you get reduction?
Do you get an invite to the staff Christmas party, Baz?
Wouldn't go, mate.
I go into the same Asda.
I'm sure they'll all clash with Team Bubba Christmas party anyway, so I won't be able to go.
Yeah. Or I used to go in the same Asda. I won't do it no more. In the same certain part of the UK. And early on, when all these self-service checkouts came in, I remember speaking to a couple of ladies in there who were really keen to show me how they worked. And I said, do you know, love? I said, in a few years' time, you ain't going to have a job here no more. And she looked at me like I was crazy. And I go back in, I don't go in there no more, but when I last went in there, there was one woman working in a whole Asda, which is quite big. One woman stacking shelves and trying to serve at the tobacco stand. And those women that I told 3 or 4 years before that they wouldn't have a job, they don't work there no more.
No.
Yeah.
They're not laughing now, are they?
No.
What you drinks, lads? Cat's in.
A tiger. Loey's got a tiger.
It's the spy. The spy's in.
Yeah.
Oh, Christ, yes.
CIA device.
He's our little apprentice.
Did you, just on a little side note, talking about animals, have you heard of that one where about birds? I didn't know about this until about a month ago. That there are claims, obviously bullshit claims, but that birds actually don't exist. They're not an animal species. They are plants that are sent out to spy on people. If you look online, they're not plants. Birds. Birds are plants.
No, birds. He's got the bloody Ashley spoon, hasn't he?
I thought it was.
I've told you I've got my big bonus of
I know a load of birds who are fucking plants, but they don't live around where I live.
But no, apparently
plant pots they are, yeah.
CIA, believe it or not, code name for this thing where they killed a load of birds, like billions of birds, and replaced them with robot birds who now spy on everybody. I thought I dreamt it until I looked it up and saw that
I told you it'd be like this now. Told ya.
Yeah.
Tiny said that there was going to be no seagulls around by now because all the reptilians were eating them. Do you remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
All the pigeons. Yeah. Remember?
They're robots, Billy. They are all gone.
Oh, dear me. Right, where were we? Sorry. You can cut that bit out if you want.
No, we're leaving it all inside.
it's rustic tonight.
The sound's going to be shit. We're shit. But that's all staying in because it's real. It's real. Shall we have a chat? I know it's a bit depressing, but I think it's hard not to talk about stuff what piss you off, but I think we should have a little bit of a chat about the effect these con artists are having on real people, destroying the lives. Since we've been away, we've had a lot of emails and messages from here we go, look.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of messages from people who have had their lives destroyed by these con artists, where their partners have been brainwashed by them, basically. And sadly, they're so far gone that they're turning their back on their own families to the extreme, basically. And it just seemed like we've had endless amounts of people. You had another message.
Yeah, right.
Cool.
I got this a few weeks ago from somebody who's contacted me a number of times. Contacted us a number of times. I've had a few.
I take it she has given it.
Absolutely, yeah. She contacted me and she said that she would always do this, but it was getting up the courage to do it, to sort of bare us all for everybody to hear. And I really appreciate her doing this. So I'm just going to read out word for word. I'm going to read out word for word this email that she sent us. Right. I was going to do a separate video for this, and I've been so busy, I've just not got around to doing it. Then it just seems like a pretty good time now, just with lads are talking about this. I thought it was a good time. So, hi Barry and the team. It's been a while since I contacted you. I want to thank you again for all you and your team do. I've been listening and following you, and thank you for all the time you spend researching. This is so important. These people need to be exposed. The past few months, it's been a challenge, and Kim is still at her worst. Since my last email, my house is sold. I'm officially separated from the man I love so much. Sadly, I couldn't cope anymore. My family torn apart. Thankfully, my older children have researched this crap and spoken to their father. Sadly, no success. Too deep down the rabbit hole. How sad is that? I would like to say to anyone out there who is questioning Kim and her bullshit, think hard. There is consequences. You'll go crazy, suffer from depression, anxiety, lose your job, and then your family. The most important thing in your life. Your family and friends will slowly move away, and you'll be left alone, waiting for the change in humanity. Sadly, it won't happen, because Kim is fake. 7 years, I have watched and listened to my husband. My God, I can't even explain the torture. We all know the governments are corrupt. If she was real, would we have wars, COVID, sickness, etc., etc.? This is the biggest scam ever. I ask people to think hard, to research. There is always an answer for things that don't happen. I have been married for so long, thought it would be forever. I have seen my husband change so much. It's heartbreaking. Think twice. Family is your number one. Team Bubba, I shall be in contact again. I want to say more, but my emotions are so high at the moment, it's difficult. I have lost the love of my life due to the brainwashing cult. Keep exposing the bullshit they do. Families have been destroyed. My children, excuse me, my children have suffered, and she needs to go to jail. Once again, thank you for all you do. That gets me every time I read it.
Me too, mate, every time I read it. But it's that what keeps us fueled to do even more harder work. Because it's proof it's not about the money. Because the money is just money, but it's the family and the loved ones that have been destroyed. You know, the ones that have to listen to it all, the ones that their partners try to push Kim's bullshit onto them and they don't want to know, you know. If Kim's putting such a great message out, you mention it to your partner. If they don't want to know, you respect it. Keep it to yourself. Because there's things that we've gone through when we started our journey of waking up. You know, my partner didn't believe any of this, but I didn't brainwash her with it. And I definitely wouldn't do what some of these people are doing that are heavily in with Kim, which is tear your family apart, your children involved. Christ, they're supposed to be number one. When them children were born, you must have said to yourself, the most amazing things happened, and you're going to protect them and be there for them, always be number one. But it's clearly not, is it? Because they think their number one thing is getting funding from Kim so they can help the world, which is never going to happen. Because if it was going to happen, we would have seen signs of it by now. Yeah. It is heartbreaking, and it does really kick me up the arse to do more videos. And, you know, everything that you guys who have been doing this longer than me, I just pulled all that information back and we look at our sources and we all get together and we talk about these things and we put it together. And then you just got to listen. These swindlers are actually outing themselves now. But these people are so brainwashed to see the shit mistakes they make because they don't make a note of what they've said 4 years ago or 2 years ago. So, yeah, that's what we've got to do.
It's probably happening even more now as well than it ever did because of the amount of people that have started to wake up because of how fast things have been happening the last few years compared to before that. There's been a big influx of people probably looking, especially throughout the Rona, because they had more time. And as we spoke about before, you know, it gave people the impetus to sit down without the luxuries, without the normal things that they could use to distract themselves. And they were kind of force-fed it, weren't they? And it was, so you've seen a lot more people who are going to be moving into the alternative media, looking for things, getting sucked into that type of stuff, who are far more naive than what they would have picked before. So it's a lot easier for them. So you're getting a lot more people who are now walking that path, who are going to find themselves in that sticky situation if they don't start to sit and be honest with themselves a bit more and start to reevaluate what their beliefs are. Second, you know, really question themselves and try and do it with some sort of balance, you know, objectively. It's really important. So,
the thing is that if and when it goes to shit, Kim, Thomas, Charlie, fucking what's his name? Parks. They're not going to be there. They're not going to be there. They're going to be swanning off in the yachts. They're going to be swanning off in the mansions away from it all. They're not going to be the ones fighting over food. They're not going to be the ones fighting over fuel. That's
toilet rolls.
Yeah, that's going to be us.
Yeah.
And them. And they don't see this. They just keep seeing that there's this slush fund of money that's there, and it's going to come any day. And it's like you were saying earlier, Stevie, about the dinar thing.
Yeah.
How long has all that been going on?
Well, before I got into THI, I must have been 2014. I was into all that. And, you know, I've said it on my videos. I was one of those suckers that got involved. And the dinar, Sims, dongs was exactly the same thing that Kim, Thomas, Charlie, or whatever's doing, where you got to have, you're supposed to be classed as humanitarians. They're targeting you because you're good, kind, loving people. They're targeting you, promising you there's going to be mass amounts of money at your disposal for you to help these people. And they haven't come up with the goods. I mean, we've received messages from places like India where they've said, we were told we were going to get our funding an assembly in India, and we've had nothing, you know, communications being cut or whatever, because that's what they do. Yeah. It's a temporary thing. They don't care. I think we spoke about this earlier on. There's the 4-year loop of the bullshit they put round all the time.
I thought about this morning to Baz on the way down. Something that always stuck in my head goes back to about 2012, and when I was looking at all of this dinar stuff, all this reevaluation and all that. And I always remember a guy who came into the comment section. It was around 2012, and this guy said basically, "This is a load of bullshit. I've been looking at this kind of stuff for 25 years." Yeah, this was in 2012, and I remember it giving me a bit of a jolt. But because I was so naive back then, like a lot of people are now who are following this kind of stuff, I brushed it off because it was the hopium and there's a saviour and all that, which is in your earlier days, you want to believe that, but you have to go get to a point where you realise that the only person that's going to save your ass is yourself. There ain't no saviours out there. Some people don't want to hear it, but if you want the truth, that is the truth. There's no one else out there that is going to save your ass apart from you.
But those swindlers say that. They tell you that.
They say all the right things.
Thomas will say, I'm not your saviour. You're going to save yourself. Kim says the same, but she puts herself out as a saviour. And they all say, we love you, Kim.
If anyone listens to her, have you noticed how she says, you people?
Yeah.
And you're going to do without this, and this is going to happen to you people.
Yeah.
Because in her fucking crazy world, she genuinely does try and set herself aside from everybody else. It's the ego, isn't it? That narcissist in her. And that should give it away to you. When she's talking about you people, I thought she was supposed to be on your side.
Just taking it back a bit, I just want to say how sorry I am for that lady whose email that was.
That's just one of many, isn't it?
Yeah, but her particular story is very, very sad. Obviously, we know a bit more than what's been made public, but it's just, I just can't believe that people can be so brainwashed that they would they would sacrifice their lives to that extent and leave the people they love, destroy the lives of the people they love. And the financial side of it, I mean, can you imagine how frustrated that lady must be? Sitting there every moment of every day for the rest of her life. She's got to just be so frustrated that this just did not need to happen, because her husband, I think she has mentioned that's her husband, and she can.
Yeah.
Her husband just cannot see through that filter. Because that's what it is, isn't it? It's like they put a filter in front of people's eyes. And then once they've invested into that filter, they're got them. They're got them. And then the more they can put filters in front, so the more they invest into it, the harder that is for rational people to get through to that person. So you imagine, right? Can you imagine what her husband has got to feel like in 5 years' time when it starts to dawn on him that he's made a great big mistake? The biggest mistake of his life. And he's not got to be able to turn it back. Because by then, no doubt, this lady will have moved on in some form. And I really do hope that she find happiness elsewhere. I know that's the last thing on her mind right now. She's going through a grieving process, and that will no doubt take a long time. But if you're listening, you will get through it, and you will find happiness again. And you certainly should not feel guilty about that and look back with any regrets, because this is not your fault. You were put in this position, and going forward, if I was you, just get through the grief process and then try and move on with your life and just find happiness, and it will come to you. It will come to you. But as for her husband, boy, is he going to regret this in the future.
The only kind of comforting words I could say to that lady is, what we found is, in general, most people who succumb to cults do get out. They do realise eventually. Some people have to really go through it. Some people see it early, and some people never do. There's a small amount that are still in them cults now that I don't think will ever come out. Because of the amount of time that they've been in there before we were even around.
Yeah.
They're really deep, and they're the ones I really do feel sorry for. But just to that lady, I think there is still a lot of hope, because we have seen a lot of people who have got to 4 or 5 years, 6 years or something, and then something's happened and they've just snapped out of it.
But the problem is, Billy, the damage is done, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
the damage is done.
But I don't think it's not finite now. I don't think it's over completely. She doesn't have to lose all hope. I'm not trying to give her any false hope, but just going by what we've seen, there has been a lot of people who've come and gone through all these cults, and it does seem to be an average time limit on it for me. Some people will only last a year or two. Depends on your personality, but I think there's still hope. There's still a chance that a husband can snap out of it. I've seen it happen. We've all been there ourselves.
I think the problem mentally, I think there's a point where people snap out of it. When I was in fairly deep with the Thomas BS, Carol, my wife, Mrs. Bigham, was at a point of saying that I don't want to do this anymore, because I was too obsessed with it all. Luckily, I saw the light way before she put things into... But I could have been without her now. And I wouldn't have blamed her for not hanging around. If she'd have gone, no, I'm done, and I'd have gone, no, I'm quite happy as I am, thank you very much. That's up to you. And then if I'd have snapped out of it a year later and then gone back to her, and she'd have gone, no, I've moved on, I wouldn't have had a thing to say about it, because there's not a lot I can do about it. But there's a fine line between who you blame Do you blame him? And we've all been in this position. We know what it's like to be under the spell. Do you blame the person that is under the spell for not seeing it? Or the blame has to fall ultimately at the people who are, excuse me, who are doing what they're doing.
They're engineering it, yeah.
Yeah. But there's got to be some sort of blame held at the feet of the person that's going ahead with it. The person, and I'm not attacking her ex-husband at all here. That's the last thing I want to do. But there's, when you've got to the point where you've let your family, your flesh and blood, the person you love, the person you've married and set up a life with, when you've let them go over a hopium that, whether you believe it's going to happen or not, it's just ongoing, year after year, year after year. And yet your wife and your children have been there for you all this time. And you're happy to just push them aside.
Yeah, that is what I was... Thank you, Baz. You've just eloquently put what I was sort of trying to get at with the damages done. And also with it being a woman, is there I don't know, is there an element that he's chosen another woman over me? His own wife he's been with God knows how many years.
Could be construed that way by certain people. That's a marriage ruiner, isn't it? Straight away.
I mean,
it's a trust issue.
The poor lady's going to be an emotional wreck. It's bound to have entered her head, I would imagine, that he is, his loyalty is with Kim.
Yeah.
And that, for me, is just unforgivable for me.
What's that saying as well? Charity begins at home. It's quite simple, isn't it, Before you start going else looking to help other people, you got to have your own shit in order first, haven't you? Yeah. It's priorities.
But just moving on, not moving on, but just to back up what Baz said, I'm not pointing the blame at the husband here, because we know who is to blame. Kim, she's the one. These con artists know there's a human flaw, and these people know how to exploit it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They know how to exploit it. You could say it's a bit like when men have an affair. They might have a new young PA come and work for them in the office. PA might think, I might fancy a bit of him. Might do my job prospects bit of good here. Flutter the old eyelashes. A lot of men would not be able to turn that down if it's laid on a plate to them, and that is a human flaw in the male species. It is.
Yeah.
And this is, I'm not saying it's a similar thing, but that is how easy it can be once they know how to exploit. Because we was talking about this earlier. When you break these con artists down, how they work on people, it all comes back to the same thing. The one or two, three simple things, it all comes back to that. When you strip it all back, a lot of it is normally money involved. There's a promise of money somewhere. So they use that to get people in. Pyramid schemes. It's always money there. Easy money. So they always use that. And then, like Baz was just saying, the hopium. So they keep them dangling. And then as you find, the longer they're dangling, they reinforce it.
Yeah.
It just gets stronger and stronger and stronger and
more
stronger.
Involved. Yeah.
And it's harder to then break from it. So the further you go, the more invested you become. We see it in THI. There's people in there. For God's sake, we know who they are. What are you still doing in there? How much have you got to see so you can admit to yourself this guy is full of shit? Eh? You're a joke. We laugh at you. You are an absolute joke. Wake up and get the out of there. Because you are helping con other people and destroy the lives like this lady. You are helping that happen by being in there and pretending all this is real. Sorry guys, that really pisses me off.